from the City of Federal Way Recycling, and we are excited to bring our first clutter clearing book club to Facebook Live and to Zoom. So we will be covering the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning today. This workshop series is sponsored by King County Solid Waste Division, the Department of Ecology, the City of Federal Way, and the South King Tool Library. So my contact is here on the screen if you have any questions about recycling or want to know about our events or the different activities we're working on. And then I'd like to introduce Amanda Miller from the South King Tool Library.
Hi, everybody. I met some of you picking up your books, and just thank you for joining us today. I'm also your tech guru, as much as a guru I can be, but thank you for joining us today, and I hope to have a successful glitchless day. But go ahead, Denise. I can talk. I mean, the Tool Library is happy to host this, and yeah, I'm pretty sure we've already covered most of everything else with the Tool Library. So take it away.
All right. Hi, my name is Denise Frakes. A lot of you know me, and I'm so excited. This is our first ever Action 6-week book club. So thank you all. We're all guinea pigs on this, and we're all figuring out how to do the breakout rooms and the Zoom. So whether you're cleaning out your house or trying to figure out the technical, we're all in the same boat. Do you want me to go ahead and get going then?
It's all you, Denise. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. So I'm going to be chatting I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of how we're going to do this. I'm going to chat for about 10 minutes just to kind of get you going on the philosophy of the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. We have a very special helper. Susan G is going to be giving us how to pronounce it. Thank you, Susan. And then we're going to do a breakout room where everybody gets a chance to kind of introduce themselves and give you your favorite tip of the beginning, your favorite aha moment or quote, one little snippet of the book in this first breakout session. Then I'll come back and chat of like how to get started and how we can make the most of this club. Then we're going to do another breakout session where you get to kind of pick one little task you want to complete during this next week. So you kind of get a juiciness of like, okay, I can do this. And then we'll come back and finish it up. We're also doing this live on Facebook. So imagine, COVID has opened up a whole world to us. So without further ado, I'm going to first start with Susan. If you want to unmute yourself, Susan is going to give us a definition or explain how to say the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. What is death cleaning, Susan? Thank you.
I asked my friend who's fluent in Swedish. The first syllable, dus, rhymes with puss, like pussycat, dus. And the second syllable is Ted, like TED Talks, and then ning. So dus Ted-ning. And if you're from Uppsala or Göteborg and you have the singing voice, it's dus Ted-ning. They like to put an emphasis into each syllable with a lot of energy. So it takes energy to death clean. So it's dus Ted-ning.
Good point. Oh, thank you, Susan. I couldn't figure it out. Dus Ted-ning, is that it? Dus Ted-ning. So we're going to be doing the gentle art of dus Ted-ning. I love it. Okay, so how cool. Everybody got your books. Did everybody get your books? You can always give me a thumbs up in the reactions, hands, thumbs up. Yes. Okay, so we were only going to read a little bit. How many of you, by give me a show of thumb, read through more than what we talked about? Right. So how many millions of times, and me included, have you read through a book and you're like the anticipation of it's got the next thing, it's going to solve my world, and you're like going through the book quickly. You're like, oh, and so we rush through the book and then we don't do anything about it. We just have absorbed all this information. And so we're headstrong, but action weak. And then the book ends up in our book place, or we didn't even finish the book. And instead of being this life-changing experience, it's like, It's just something we're dusting and feeling a little bit of regret that we didn't actually implement it. So, and I don't know if Liz is on there. So Liz is the one that gave this idea. We were doing another course for Pierce County Health Department, and Liz had the idea of a book club. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, 6 weeks, let's stretch out the book club. So instead of us rushing through it, we're taking the book in segments, 6-week segments, and we're doing a tiny little pocket of the book and taking action and having support at the same time. So as you're going through this book, I want you to think of, instead of rushing, that we're savoring it, that we're actually going back and looking at it again, maybe even reviewing it a little bit, kind of getting it kind of just grounded in our system. I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she's in 2 book clubs. One book club, they read this one book, and now her second book club, she's reading the same book. And she goes, Denise, man, I am learning so much more. It's like I hadn't even read that book. It was like when I read it again, I got it to a whole nother level. And how unusual is it for us to slowly go back and read a book again and get it on a deeper level instead of rushing? So that's the idea of this, is let's savor this. And what drew me to this book is not the death cleaning part, although there's a message in there that I love, but it was the gentle art. Because how many times do we beat ourselves up of, oh, I should have already do this. I should be a better person. Somehow I should know genetically how to take care of a house. I shouldn't have let it get behind, yada, yada. We're just hard on ourselves. So I like thinking of this as a gentle art of not only making progress, but being kind to ourselves. And that's what I think of this gentle art of death cleaning. It's not the practice of how to die, but the practice of how to live kindly. And so this death cleaning is actually a practice of love. If I can think of anything in the world to describe it more than it, to me, it says it's the practice of love for ourselves, to create a place that we can thrive in, that our homes feel nourishing, our lives feel nourishing, we have room to breathe, we have a comfort in our lives that when somebody, when COVID's over, randomly pops by our house, we can just welcome them in and they feel loved because they're not got some kind of weird barrier, we can't let them in our life. But we bring people into our lives and we love them, they love us, and we feel nourished in our homes. That is an act of love. And that what brings the Swedish death cleaning into another level is that we're not even just thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about the people that we love. Instead of us just like, oh, do I love it? We're actually adding another level of that. Does the person I love, would they be interested in this? Would they love this? Am I just going to be leaving too much to my family and friends and it's going to be overexhausting? In her book, she talks about, Margareta, she talks about that when we are not there and somebody is helping us, that they're thinking of, that they're appreciating that we're not just dumping everything on them, that they're not remembering us by being exhausted because they're already going to be stressed because if we're not in their life. But then to add this whole thing of now they have this giant house to clean out and it's going to be exhausting. It's an act of love. It paves the future for them. And it also, this book opens up a time for us to be able to have conversations with our loved ones about what they really want. Because we always think that everybody's going to want everything, but nobody has a whole nother house sitting empty, ready to take on all of our stuff. And what we found just charming and lovely does not necessarily mean it's charming and lovely to them, but what we want is the memory of us, the relationship we have to be nourished in the whole process and not become just a weight on the people we love souls. So this book club is it's just juicy. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to do our first breakout room. And during the breakout rooms, there will be no recordings. So feel free to talk freely, share your thoughts with each other. So in the first breakout room, there's going to be 2 things we're going to discuss. First of all, I'd love it if you would say your name, who you are, maybe one tiny little, like one snippet, like what color is your favorite color? Something, you know, let's do that. What is your favorite color or the favorite color of the day? And the second thing is, what was one idea or tip or quote that you loved from the book? What spoke to you from the book? So everybody will have probably about 2 minutes to chat. And so we're going to have groups of, I think, about 4 people in each group. If you don't want to participate, you are not required to, but I would love it if you could, because this is not only a book club, but it's also building a relationship, because we're all kindred spirits in this. We are all in the same boat. There's just tons of stuff coming on, and we're all creating space for us to thrive. So, you know, however you show up in this group, you're perfect. There is no perfection in this group. This is a bunch of imperfect souls traveling. So wherever you are, if you just have a tiny bit of clutter or your house is plumb full, it doesn't matter. You're absolutely perfect. So just know you're showing up perfectly, imperfectly. So without further ado, we're going to pause the recording and then go into breakout rooms, and then just share your name, the color of the day that you love, and then like a tip, an idea, a quote that spoke to you. Okay, so we are recording. Okay, so welcome back. A couple things I heard, and I love that, is like, you know, in the book it says start with clothes. You know, make it simple. A lot of people start with clothes, and you know, I say start where you're most inspired. And I do love of not starting with something that is very emotional to you, the thing that is dragging your heart down into, you know, and it's just overwhelming. Don't start there. Start with something that you're inspired about, that's easy, because the first thing you want to do is see progress. And that's the most important thing about is progress, because if you want to drop your stress, we got to have progress. So doing something that you're excited about is going to draw you in. And interestingly enough, if we're having a good time, our brains actually work better. If we're super stressed, we become super analytical, and then we're going to overthink this to death. But if we're having fun, if we have music going, if the windows are open, if we're taking some pressure off ourselves, we're not going to try to do this overnight. That the whole gentle art, it's a gentle art. We're going for the gentle art of being nice, because, you know, in life, whether you're just a business person who is just overwhelmed by work, you're a mom, you're a grandma, you know, you are full of a house, you've got all your parents' stuff. I mean, this is life. It is not a race. We're not trying to rush through this. We're trying to build skills and nourish ourselves so our lives matter. So that means there's another book I'm reading. It's called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And it's not about dying. It's all about the wisdom of people that are towards the end of their life, are trying to reach back and talk to us and say, hey, there's another way. And I don't want you to end up where I am. I want you to feel this. And that's what Margareta's doing. She's she says somewhere between 80 and 100. I love that. I'm somewhere between 80. And she says, she's trying to say, hey, there's an easier way to live. And that's all this is about, an easier way to live. So a couple tips as we're going to make this easier for everybody. And then we're going to go back in with action. One tip she had, and I absolutely love this tip, is by gently and thoughtfully doing this process, we're doing it in a more nourished and thoughtful way. So if we don't do things thoughtfully, there's a good chance somebody's just going to come in and kind of dump everything. And that's not really the legacy we want. And it ends up in our landfills. It lands up in all kinds of places. That's not the legacy of your life you want. So by doing this, you are honoring your own life and your own, the people that you love. And so going gently about it. She mentions in there about leaving notes to each other and messages. So the notes about, you know, if you have things in your life and you're kind of preparing, so if somebody else comes in, they would know what to do with it. Please leave notes for them. I had an example of this, and I will post this poem on Facebook. I don't know if you can see it, but this little picture is a picture of a little china closet. It was a china cabinet at my great aunt's. And in this china closet, my mom and I are cleaning out my aunt's house, my great aunt's house. And it was, you know, it was tough because there was a lot of stuff and so many memorabilia, so many heart things, you know, and we were having to make tough decisions. But when we got to that note, that cabinet, she had left a note in there for us that basically said, I didn't get a chance to do it. It was too hard for me, but I really appreciate gentle hands doing this for me. The weight that dropped off of our souls by somebody giving us permission to let go of things, and that they knew it was hard, and the appreciation, I can't even express what that did for us, of a note left behind of like, hey, I know at some point somebody's going to be doing this. Thank you. Do that. Leave notes. I do that at Christmas time. I leave my notes to myself for the next Christmas. So leave notes. The other thing that this book opens up is, if you do have family members, it opens up the conversation of like, what do you want? You know, how much of this do you want? How can I help it? It just starts the conversation. We're not trying to say have deep conversations, but you might want to start the conversation. And that kind of paves the way for maybe other future conversations. So a couple tips that I live by in clutter clearing is one, and she talks about this in the book, about trying to clutter clear an area that's untidy. It's much harder to go into an area to downsize and tidy up, or downsize and get rid of things into an area that's muddled, that's untidy. So one of the practices I would really love us all to do is a gentle pocket of love every day. So, and this gentle pocket of love, have you ever heard it's a Mark Twain saying about, I think it's about eating a frog, but we can kiss a frog instead of eating a frog, because if you're a vegetarian, that would be horrible. So we're going to with kissing a frog. But if you have to kiss a frog, don't spend too much time looking at it. And this is big, because in clutter, there's two things that happens. It's a massive procrastination thing, and it's also not being present. So if you have to kiss a frog, do it right away. What that means is, if you have to do something you really don't want to do it first thing in the morning. Do it before you even think about it. Make it so automatic, like first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning for me, I have my quiet time, my special time where I'm doing body work, exercise, prayer. I have a pocket. Included in that pocket of time in the morning is waking up my kitchen and tidying up my house. I take about 15 minutes to tidy up my house every day, because you know what happens in a day, it just explodes. Things go places. That's life. But if you take a little pocket in the day and just wake up your house, open up the blinds, you know, finish your dishes. If you haven't finished your dishes, put the dishes away, you know, fold the blanket on your couch, just put things back where they are. 15 minutes a day, first thing in the morning, that little practice, it's a practice of love. It's a practice of rebooting your home, refreshing, setting the tone of the day. And when you set the tone of the day, it's like the law of physics. Things in motion tend to stay in motion. Things at rest tend to stay at rest. So by starting the day doing something productive, no matter what happens the rest of the day, you will have done something you can be proud of every morning, and it will keep your life from getting chaotic. So that is one tip I have, and I would love it. You know, maybe all of us do different things. You may already have practices that you do every day, but keep a practice where at least first thing in the morning, don't make it hard. If it's too much for 15 minutes, make it 5 minutes. If 15 minutes isn't making it enough, make it for 22 minutes. It doesn't really matter. It's more of the action than the time. Does that make sense? It's a practice I live by, because what we're doing here is we're not just having like, oh, let's clean out the house and be done with it. No, this is habits. These are shifting habits that will carry on the rest of our life. It is not about judging ourselves. It's none of those things. It's about loving ourselves and creating pockets where we feel nourished. The second thing I wanted to kind of bring it with, and I think I talked to a little bit about how to start and what to start on. My first thing I always recommend and feel good about is just picking up things that are obvious, big things. You know, start with things that'll give you a lot of bang for your buck. So if you look around the house and you have like a big box in your living room that hasn't been broken down, that's a big thing. It's not super emotional, it's easy, but get the big things up so you can feel progress, because having progress will keep us motivating. You don't want to start with something like the memorabilia, the photos, sorting your jewelry, because you won't get the big wow. And you really want that little juiciness to kind of get you going. So, you know, as you're tidying up, put things away, things on the floor. So if you have things that have dropped on the floor, fallen on the floor, this would be one task I would highly recommend, is going through your house. And if things are on the floor, out of place, pick them up and put them away, because things that are on the floor will drag your energy down. And we want to lift our energy up. So first thing is pick up the big things. Go for something that is easy for you, especially this first week. Go easy. I don't want you to go for, oh, I need to clean out. But if like a garage inspires you to get your car in there, go for the garage. If clothes feel like, oh, that doesn't feel good, don't do the clothes. But what you really want to do is clean out the entranceway so it feels good. Clean off your front porch so it feels good. Go for the things that you're really inspired to do. And that's going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask you in the breakout room, is what are you inspired to do? And I'm going to ask you to pick up with one action that you want to do, one little pocket of things. And this is not about like the big marching band. This is about one little task done consistently, building nourishment. Another thing to think about is when you're putting things together, think like with like, because a lot of times we'll have pocket of the same basic category throughout the whole house. And we want to have it like with like, because everything needs a home. And that's what we're doing, is we're creating a home. Everything needs a home. And so if you have a place where you know where your rubber bands go, and you know where your little clippy dealies go for your office, that every time you pick it up, you're like, oh, I know exactly where that goes. The amount of joy that is going to give you is like stupid funny, because you're like, oh, I know where that goes. Oh, I know where that goes. It's a home. And that's what we're doing for us. We're creating a home for us, but then we know exactly where everything is in our home. And it's not that everything needs a home and it's not a determination. It's more of, things feel good when they have a place to be. And it takes so much energy off of our brains to know, oh, I don't have to decide where it goes. I know where it goes. So when you're making little pockets of like putting like with like, as you're reorganizing, put it where you think it would make the most sense. Where would you use it? But try to do like one kind of category. It's like fingernail clippers. You don't necessarily need fingernail clippers in every room of the house. You really need a place to go do your fingernail clipping. Does that make sense? Because it's easy to go like, I need one cleaner for every part of the house. And then it ends up, it just sprays it all over the house. So keep it simple. You don't need 20 nail clippers. You need maybe 1 or 2 nail clippers in one spot. You always know where they are. They're in the bathroom cabinet, easy. That takes that whole brain thing out. No more brain work. I like less brain work. I think that's pretty much it. So our next breakout room, we're going to do, and I think we might be able to be in the same breakout rooms. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but we're going to do, where are you going to put that pocket at 15 minutes? So give it a home, like at 9 o'clock in the morning, first thing when I wake up. If you're a night owl, maybe it's right before you go to bed, but do it. If you're doing it before you bed, do it gently and slowly, because you're trying to close down your brain, not stir it up. But give it a home. And the second thing is, one thing you want to do this week that will just feel good, just one, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. I mean, even if it's just read the chapters of the book, totally fine. But one thing you want to do this week to get started that will feel good. We're back recording. So I got a chance to visit again in one of the breakout rooms. And there's a message in here that I really want to take home to us, that this is not a practice about torturing ourselves. This is a practice of learning how to love our work, how to love our life, and how to do it with a sense of meaning. We were talking about like where to put that pocket. And I intentionally put my first pocket of waking up my home in with my quiet time, with my self-care time. I wake up and do self-care, body works and and prayer, not always prayer, but reading things that inspire me. But I intentionally add my waking up my kitchen into that place to remember that it's sacred. So it's not a task of something I absolutely have to do. It is actually an act of love that I'm cultivating it, being a deeper practice of enjoying the process of being completely present in it and turning that into part of something that nourishes me in the day and is not a task that drains me. That is a really big key, because when we turn this from something that we feel like it's torturing, thank you, Theodora, that is torturing us, into something that gives us energy, that sustains us, it is an act of love. I can't even express that enough, that this is a practice of learning to love. That's why I love the gentle art. It's a gentle art of learning to do something that maybe you don't want to do, that's kind of plagued you your whole life, that it's just like, I've never been able to do it, yada, yada. It's an act of having kinder conversations with yourself and creating space for yourself to love. Little pockets. And honestly, and I think if you've heard me talk before, you know, I started on a farm and I hated to clean. Through college, I was like the messy Marvin. I was not tidy. And then we started a cleaning company. This has been a journey. I'm 55 years old. This has been a journey. And as I keep learning and practicing and sharing and learning and practicing and sharing, I've understood that this is more of a spiritual practice than it is anything else. And it's an act of love. And I keep working on it. I was working with a client not too long ago, and I was cleaning her toilet. During COVID, I'm doing things that normally I don't do. But in this case, it was something that I was adding a little bit to my normal services just to support this awesome client. And we had music going in the house, and I was cleaning somebody else's toilet, singing away, and I realized I was just so happy, and I looked down and I'm cleaning a toilet. And I'm like, now that is what I'm talking about. If you can learn how to do it. And she talks about that. It's not just about getting it done. It's about loving the process. It's about enjoying the process, about making it easy, making it simple, making it enjoyable for yourself, so that work is not work. Work becomes nourishment, and sometimes work can become play because it feels good. A couple things to make it more fun would be, one of all things is when you do something, when you do something that feels good, celebrate it. Pause and say, look at what I did. Take a picture of it. Pat yourself on the back. Write it down. Give yourself a gold star. What happens is when we celebrate our even if it's a tiny win, if we celebrate it, we start building neural pathways. They have emotion. We have juiciness to it. Our brains will start working better when we're having a good time and we're celebrating and appreciating it. We get more active neurons in our life if we're energized in appreciating. And we don't appreciate it. We're always like, I didn't. We need to do more of I did. Even if it's like, I got up and washed my face. Win. It doesn't have, I mean, celebrate little things. One of my favorite things is like when I'm doing bills, like I'm paying bills, and sometimes I'll pay bills and I'm, kind of dragging away. I'm like, okay, this needs to be done. So instead of thinking of it as bill playing time, I think of it as I listen to music time, and I'm playing bills while I'm listening to music. So my focus is on more of, I give myself music time and I'm doing bills. I find like fiddle music, I think goes from your left to your right a lot. So it's like, it's a quick beat. That's really good music for me to unclutter with and do bills with. I also do, if like in the evening I'm kind of drained and I want to do dishes, I'll listen to music. And again, it's a pocket of listening to music, not a pocket of doing a chore. So that way you're combining something that is fun with something that needs to be done. And your focus now becomes listening to music and moving while you're doing dishes, instead of thinking, oh, I'm grinding away and nobody appreciates me and my life is all about dishes and paying bills. It's more of, I now have created a sacred spot that I get to go listen to music and I get to accomplish something. Couple things I love listening to, and you can play with this, figure out what music you like. Sometimes music with words will distract your mind. So sometimes instrumentals are better than music with words. On Pandora, I really like the cleaning radio, the happy radio, and the Celtic music radio. Those are some of my favorites. I also like Adele. Who doesn't love Adele? But just figure out, and as you're doing it, you're learning different things about yourself. So figure out different ways of what do you love. When you're doing something like this, wash your face, put on clothes. Don't try to just go in your pajamas and slug away at life. Wake up and enjoy your life and do it in a way that feels good. Like if somebody showed up in your house, be dressed, have your shoes on, wash your face and get ready and take care of yourself in the process. So I think that's pretty much it for this one. Couple little reminders, leave yourself messages, leave messages for other people. I can't even, this is just, matter of fact, we have a little bit of a break before our time's up. I'm going to read this poem because this was from my aunt, and I'm not exactly sure who left it. It could have been my great-grandmother, because before my aunt lived there, my great-grandmother lived there. So I don't know who left this message, but the message was long kept things. It's a poem. I would be glad of fingers not too ruthless, but impersonal, would weed out little keepsakes I've kept for years, scrapbook, poems, letters, useless gifts. Once dear was sentiment, greeting cards and other bits of old remembering. I have no need for them. They clutter up my desk, but once I start to clear them out and pause and look at them, my hands are stayed. Nor can I bring myself to throw one single thing away. I would be glad of fingers, tender but impersonal, would throw my little long-kept things away. Isn't that just, and it says a couple things. For one, it tells me that if it was my aunt or my great-grandma that put this in the china closet for us, was that the clutter had weighed on her, that the extra things had weighed on her heart. And that's what I want not for us to carry on our life. That's why it's an act of love, is to let go of the things that are weighing on you, because that's what clutter does. It diminishes our spirit. It tends to make homes not very healthy, so we're not breathing. We don't have as much energy. It definitely undercuts our confidence, because you think about it, if you have friends coming over and you feel like you aren't taking care of your home, it's going to keep chipping away at your confidence. And so by creating a space, we're getting our confidence back. We're getting our vitality back. This little poem she left, honestly, was one of the nicest gifts my aunt, she left an amazing legacy. She was 103 years old when she passed away, an amazing woman. But I don't think there was any gift, and this is probably going to make me cry. There was probably no greater gift she could have given my mom and I when we were cleaning out that house than that message, because we had to clean out things that was so hard. We had 1 week to clean out her whole life, and it was exhausting and it was trying, and there was so many things we couldn't keep because it was precious. We had to make these tough decisions, but our aunt had left that little poem. And when we got to that, I swear the weight of the world dropped off of both of us. And we knew she was giving us permission to make tough decisions for her. I didn't mean to cry all over you this morning, but it's true. This is a really great book. And so I ask you to go slowly and to do it with love and to stay with me, because this doesn't get done overnight. Stay with me. Stay with this 6 weeks. We can make it. This is a gift. The City of Federal Way is giving us a gift that we can work through this. And this is hard to do by ourselves. So stick with me, because as we're doing it, we're changing our lives. We're gaining energy, and we're creating an act of love, and we're paving that forward to the people and the environment and the communities as we go. So thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for being here. It just makes me so happy to see you guys all. And I just want the world of light and joy to come back into your life. And the weight of taking care of a home is not the thing that wears down you. It is the thing that nourishes you. And that's the transition. It is creating a home that nourishes you and a life that nourishes you, so you can thrive while you're living and pave your way forward so that it's easy for you and those you love. So anybody have any quick thoughts before we head out? I think we have like 2 minutes. So read through, and you might want to reread this first section. You're going to want to read through Only Count the Happy Moments. Ooh, I like that. So our next book club is next Thursday at 10 o'clock, and you want to read through Only Count the Happy Moments. Page 34. So read all the way through Only Count the Happy Moments, and you might want to go back and kind of reflect what you're doing. At the beginning of the book, just kind of reflect, because I think that reading deeper, this is a deep practice. This isn't a rush through and get it done as fast as you can. This is a deep practice of changing our lives. There was another question that came.
Yeah, there was a couple questions about books and papers and how to handle those coming into your home.
Okay. Again, we can add like mail as a practice. So when you get the mail, turn that into a practice of downsizing, sorting, recycling everything you possibly can, and have a home for your mail, a very specific home. You take it, you don't scatter it all over the house.
Or maybe even I can find a resource, because you can unsubscribe from some junk mail, and I know it's difficult because I end up recycling so much of my mail. So maybe I can look into a junk mail.
Right. So I love the recycling. Absolutely. So that's more of a pocket of an action. But the daily practice is to go ahead and handle your mail as it comes in. That'll be the biggest prevention you can have, is complete the process of what you're doing, recycle it, take it to a little inbox. If you don't necessarily have to pay all your bills, but take it out of the envelope, get rid of everything you can, but unenvelope it and mindfully get rid of everything you can, put bills to be billed and things you have to process in your inbox or your paying bill. Keep it very, very simple, but process it every time you get your mail. Don't let it sit. Don't let it scatter. And take it out of the envelopes for sure. All right. Any other quick questions? I think we have room for one more question. We'll figure this out. And I'm going to send out another email reminder. So I'll put the link in it when I send out the email. So if you guys are having any messages, I'll say I'm going to have more room for questions, for group questions. So we'll flock it. This was just kind of our get going. So have fun. All right. Thank you. It's so good to see you guys. I can't wait to hear how it goes.